Hedda Van Eck says Bitcoin is go head to 180,000 this cycle. Let's listen in on this.
The price of Bitcoin briefly hitting the $93,000 level before pulling back. It's up more than 150% this year. Let's talk about the crypto market and bring in Matthew Siegel, head of digital assets research at Van Eck. I thought, Matt, that it was definitely long in the tooth, this sort of mania. You say there's, at least for your work, that you don't necessarily see that yet in terms of whether it's totally overdone?
Joe, we think it's just getting started. As we expected, Bitcoin saw this high volatility pump after the election. We're now in blue sky territory, no technical resistance, and we think we're likely to make repeated all-time highs over the next 2 quarters. The same pattern played out 4 years ago. Between the election and the end of the year in 2020, Bitcoin doubled. There were about 10% corrections, so it's not going to be a straight line, but we're up 30% so far, and a number of indicators that we track are still flashing green for this rally to continue. This is a state change in terms of government support. Look at this cabinet: the VP, Attorney General, Director of Defense, National Security Advisor, possibly even the Secretary of Treasury being pro-Bitcoin. That's not including Elon and Vivek. So the number of calls that I'm getting inbound from investment advisors who are at 0 and looking to get to 1%, or at 1% and looking to get to 3%, these calls are starting to accelerate, and we think the flows are going to follow. So our price target for this cycle is 180K. We think we can reach that next year. That would be 1,000% return from the bottom to the peak this cycle. That's still the smallest Bitcoin cycle by far.
And double from here, basically. You look.
Did you listen to everything he said? That's like so bullish. That's so bullish. The technicals support it. The new administration support it. The patterns compared to 2020 support it. You know, doubling from election to the end of the year, right? That would mean we would go up to about 120 or 140,000 by the end of the year. That's super bullish. I don't know what more you can say. That's about as bullish as you can get with analysis. I'm wondering what more he can say. I don't know. Let's just listen.
Look at weird things, Matthew. Like, so you Google search for Bitcoin is one of the things. So you would expect, if we were getting toppy, you would expect that was off the charts, and it's not yet.
Google searches are nowhere near where they were 4 years ago. Coinbase's rank in the Apple and Android app stores, nowhere near where it was 4 years ago. Look at the internals of the derivative markets, what it costs for funding to put on Bitcoin futures trades. You know, it's up, but once we get into this price discovery mode, it tends to stay elevated for quite some time.
What if Gensler's gone, as Trump said on day one, or someone said on day one? I mean, I could imagine that. I don't know when, though, it actually becomes a sell on the news, because I don't know. Maybe I'm just think that it's more of a mania move now than it actually is. But it just seems like it's been a heck of a move. Think it'll move when Gensler's gone, if he's gone?
Yeah, I think, you know, maybe the disappointment phase will set in 1 to 2 quarters after the inauguration. Okay. There's really 4 major impacts here. Okay. You know, one is just the positive impact on dynamism when you stop suing people for breaking rules that have never been written down. That's a long way of saying that regulation by enforcement is going to end. We're already seeing the economic impact of that. There are crypto projects that are announcing that they're going to hold conferences in the U.S. for the first time ever, open offices in the U.S. and New York. It's just great for U.S. jobs and GDP. right? We've got the Bitcoin reserve that would legitimize this asset as a reserve asset, pave the way for it to be used as a global settlement currency, as the
Okay.
BRICS countries have been doing. President Trump recognizes the synergies between Bitcoin and AI. They are two sides of the same coin. If you want to have cheap AI, you're going to want to combine it with Bitcoin mining to take advantage of that cheap power.
They're telling me we got, I don't know, Disney, Bitcoin, they're both important, obviously, but we got to get the...
Google searches not all-time high yet. Coinbase not on the top of the iOS App Store yet, which are top indicators, nowhere near there. And then what else has he said? AI and blockchain and everything else. It's about as bullish as you can get. Okay. Super, super bullish. Everything I've been covering, basically. Everything I've been covering over the course of this year. And you heard it from this guy. He's the head of digital of an EC. Okay. Not just a guy on YouTube. Not just some random analyst on Twitter. I'm assuming they're paying this guy a whole bunch of money because he's really smart, and maybe secretly he's actually watching me before he does these interviews. We talk about how Trump is going to implement a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now we're having states that could possibly do so. So that's terrific. We're going to have states that's going to put Bitcoin in the reserve. We're going to have countries do it. Again, outside of the institutions and companies. You're going to have states. You're going to have countries. It's going to be mass FOMO. There's going to be such a big supply shock. We're not going to have enough. This is something that we've never, ever seen before. Ever in any previous cycles. We're living through the very first cycle where we have so much adoption. We've just never seen it. We have just never, ever seen it. So it'll be quite interesting what happens next year. We're all speculating at this point. We're just going based on history. We're using the charts. We're using fractal patterns, all that. That's all great. But if we never went through a cycle with huge ETFs soaking up the supply, we never went through a cycle where a freaking country like the US is going to put Bitcoin into its reserve. I mean, we've never had this before. And we're going through a very first cycle where the reserve of Bitcoin on the exchange is actually going down. And that's significant. We've never gone through a cycle where the exchange reserves is actually going down. This is the first one. It started after the last cycle. So that's also significant. We're going through a lot of firsts, and these are all contributing to this giant supply shock that I've been alluding to for quite some time. And I don't know, 2025 could just be absolutely crazy.